I would like to start by reiterating that the ocean should be recognized internationally as a global common, a common good of humanity, and should be protected in light of its uniqueness and interconnectedness, as well as the essential services, ecosystem services it provides. Echoing the scientists, European Environment Agency has been warning for years about the current state of degradation of the marine environment and the need to rapidly restore our ecosystems. Marine areas of high biological diversity, such as coral reefs, mangroves, and seagrass beds, are heavily degraded and threatened by climate change and pollutions. The ocean is a climate regulator, but it's also an economy, the blue economy. It represents 4.5 million direct jobs in EU and encompasses all sectors and industries linked to the ocean, seas and coasts. Maritime transport of goods and passengers, ports, shipyards, fishing, land-based aquaculture, genetic resources, energy production, as well as coastal tourism. That is half of the GDP linked to the sea, the tourism, culture, data connections, etc. In order to promote the sustainable growth of maritime economies, the sustainable development of maritime spaces and the sustainable use of marine resources, the EU adopted a framework directive on maritime spatial planning in 2014. And in 2021, Europe went further, presented its ambitious plan for a sustainable blue economy in the EU, a key strategy to achieve the Green Deal goals and ensure a green and inclusive post-pandemic recovery. The Starfish mission, which aims to restore the Union's ocean and waters, is a further initiative to achieve these goals by 2030. The transition to a sustainable blue economy requires investment in innovative technologies. Here again, the EU is taking the lead. In the Fuel EU Maritime Regulation, for example, where I was in charge of the negotiating the texts, we have included the development of technologies such as wind propulsion. Regarding blue carbon ecosystems, mangroves, seagrass beds, salt marshes, world champion in carbon capture, but which are emitters when they are degraded. It appears more and more in our texts, but the EU could go further, have the same approach for marine forests as for terrestrial forests. The Sustainable Carbon Cycles, which presents an action plan on how to develop sustainable solutions to increase carbon removal, should open an opportunity. We need to map blue carbon ecosystems, but also create a blue finance, financing the mapping of ecosystems, and their restoration is also part of the flourishing and sustainable blue economy that protects the environment and answers to our climate and biodiversity goals. The actors of tourism, which realizes half of the turnover of the economy linked to the sea, as those of fishing, will be the first beneficiaries. In this perspective, the project developed by NOAH seems to me extremely relevant. By setting up an ultra-precise ecosystem mapping system, it allows us to target restoration areas. The project already meets the climate need, but it meets a definite need for funding and allows the states to launch a real political impulse. This is why I joined with pleasure the working group created by NOAH under the leadership of Frédéric Degret, the Dubai Blue Pact Executive Committee, I am convinced that this draft multilateral agreement for the regeneration of our ocean within the framework of the COP28 will give the final impetus to definitively blue our policies to fight against climate change and the place they deserve. I fully support the initiative and I intend to defend it with the European institutions and also with France. My experience as a member of the European Parliament shows me every day that if the sea was not on everyone's mind a few years ago, its potential as a climate regulator is becoming more and more obvious to our political decision makers. Nevertheless, we must continue to remind people of the environmental, social, economic, and climate benefits that the ocean brings us every day, and I am proud, through this working group, to be able to make my contribution. Thank you.